Chris, do you want to intro us?
Yeah. Greetings, viewers. We're going to talk about the Big Apple of the Olympic Peninsula, aka Port Angeles, Washington. We are going to ask each other each a few questions. The other person has not heard the questions that we're going to ask, and we'll go over our answers to them. So I hope you enjoy the video.
Okay. I'll ask the first question.
Yeah, sounds great.
Perfect. Okay, I'm just going to go right on down. You had never been strawberry picking before we went on the Olympic Peninsula. What was the most surprising part? And a part two to the question. We love our two-parters. What would you do with the strawberries if you had them fresh right at this very minute?
Okay. I think the most surprising part was how low the strawberry bushes are. I thought that they would be these big bushes where you are, tangling with branches and trying to get to the strawberries, but they were pretty short and you would just kind of kneel down, squat down, and pick them up.
Yeah.
It was actually pretty easy.
Yeah. It is definitely kind of more like you're in like baseball catcher's position, and you really have to get in there with your hands to like pull the strawberry off the bush or the vine, the plant.
Yeah. And what I would make is the strawberry pie that Sue made. The second one.
Yum. That was really good. For those who weren't there, do you want to give it a little description?
Yeah.
What was it like?
So it has whole strawberries in it, kind of suspended in this strawberry jelly. And so the whole thing is just totally blood red. It's really vibrant. And then it sits on a crust. And then homemade crust.
Oh.
And then she served it with homemade whipped cream right on top. And it was awesome.
Oh man, I remember that was one of the few desserts this year that I was really considering going back for seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't think there were any seconds available, though.
No, I think there was one slice left, and you didn't really want to be that person that took the last slice.
Okay. Your answer?
Well, wasn't my first time picking strawberries, but most surprising part was we went pretty late in the season, I thought, and they still had a ton of strawberries on the bush. So we had no problem picking like a huge basket's worth. We had more strawberries than we knew what to do with. We ended up making them into that puree, remember?
Yeah. Well, we made a cake out of it.
We made a fresh like cream cheese strawberry frosting. And then were there strawberries in the cake too? I think it was just a vanilla cake.
No, not in the cake, but in between the two layers was a layer of strawberries.
We chopped some fresh strawberries per your artistic creation. Very nice. Yeah. So I think that was probably the most surprising part for me. And what would I do with the fresh strawberries right at this very minute? I think I would just wash them and kind of eat them plain. They were really, really good. Like melt in your mouth good, plain, not even having to cook anything. So I guess I'm taking the lazy approach.
Okay. That's good too. Let's go with one of my questions. So we saw a lot of wildlife during our stay in Port Angeles. What would you pick as the mascot of Port Angeles?
Oh, okay. Slam dunk for this one. It's got to be deer. It's got to be deer. So every day I'll give you a little reasoning, but I think you probably agree with me based on the look you just gave me. Every day we went on a walk during the workday in the middle of the day, and you would see 2, 4, sometimes even more than 4 deer just hanging out in a lawn, munching on a bush. And I've seen a lot of deer. I grew up in a neighborhood where there were deer. but never this consistent and never this many. There were just so many deer. It felt like we were in Deer City towards the end. So that's what I would pick.
I think deer is a good one too because it embodies the town. I think it's small, not intimidating, nothing overwhelming.
True.
Just vast amounts of wildlife around it, and the deer resemble that our connection with the wildlife because it's an animal that we see so commonly.
Definitely. What would you pick as the mascot?
The deer.
Oh, you agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Very nice. Well, I had something related to animals as well because we saw so many on our backpacking trips and just on the Olympic Peninsula in general. You'd see animals even while you were driving. What's one animal that you were glad that you saw during our time in Port Angeles?
Mm-hmm.
And what's one animal you wished you had seen?
Oh, good question. I think that, honestly, we checked a lot of boxes. I can't really think of an animal that we didn't see other than the elk. So I'm going to go with the second question first.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would have been really cool to spot some Roosevelt elk, which they have out in Olympic National Park.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Good pick. They're so big.
Yeah. What was the first question?
The first question was, what was one animal that you were glad that you saw?
Okay. I'm really glad that we saw the bald eagles. When we were hiking on the beach at Ozette, I think we spotted 2 bald eagles, and we saw them sit on rocks out with the waves crashing underneath, and then we started hiking up close to one, and as soon as we got within maybe 100 feet, it flew off its perch and flew with wings spread over us onto a tree on the other side. And I don't think we've seen a bald eagle while hiking yet, so that was a great sight.
It was pretty cool. We saw 2 that day on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the first one that we saw, I spotted from afar, and I mentioned, I was like, I think that might be a bald eagle, but I didn't believe it because we hadn't seen any on any hikes before.
Yep.
So it was pretty cool. They are just as intense looking as you would imagine, I think.
Yeah, they're huge birds.
Okay. All right. I guess it's my turn to answer the question. One animal that I am glad that I saw. I think I'm going to go with bear. It continues to be the iconic thing for people to ask us about when we go backpacking. Everyone always wants to know if we've seen any bears recently. Seen any bear recently?
Okay.
Yeah. And I thought both of our encounters with the bears, one on the beach at Ozette and one on the way back down from Boulder Lake up on a ridge, were really interesting. The second encounter up on the ridge stands out a lot because but I watched the bear get onto its hiney and sit down and pick flowers like they were popcorn and pop them in their mouth and munch, as it looked like the bear was watching us like it would a TV, like someone would a TV. It was just really interesting, and I wish I'd gotten a video, and I didn't, but we were really close to the bear, so...
We were living in the moment.
Yeah.
Sure. We were not worried about videos.
Yeah. So that was, I think, the animal that I was most glad to see, and those bears, one of which was a little bit smaller, but the second bear that we saw was pretty big, too. It had definitely eaten its weight a time or two in flowers.
Yeah.
And then one animal that I wish I'd seen, I think I'm going to go with whale. We went out to Mission Bay, ? Is that what the name of it was?
I don't remember.
We went out to a bay that was about 15-20-minute drive from Port Angeles downtown and was known to be a whale watching spot.
Mm-hmm.
And I had my hopes so high, especially since we hadn't seen any whales yet in Washington or driving up the coast of California. None of the I think, quote unquote, usual spots to see whales. So I wish we had seen some whales.
Yeah, good point. Okay, I'll ask my next one. If you had 2 hours to be dropped anywhere in Port Angeles or the greater Olympic Peninsula, where would you spend your 2 hours? I'm curious if you'll pick an old favorite or something new here.
Okay. And is this, just for intents and purposes, do I have to travel to this spot, or am I just getting
dropped
teleported?
There, you get 2 hours there.
Teleported there and then back
travel.
Here.
No
travel time to account for. Okay. Interesting. Okay, I have my answer. I would go somewhere new is the answer. I think if I had 2 hours, the one area that I wish that we had been able to get to a little bit more, or even at all, was Port Townsend. It was supposed to be one of the cutesy towns on the Olympic Peninsula. It sounded like there was a cute downtown, and there is a mountain hike that's right there that would have been really interesting and I think fun to do. You look down on the town and the water.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am also going to choose to be dropped in a new area.
Ooh.
One place that we heard a lot about and was recommended to us was the Hoh Rainforest.
Oh, yeah.
And we did not make it there.
I talked about the Hoh Rainforest all month and we never went.
We just had so many busy weekends and
yes.
We spent all our time really well, but I do wish we could have gotten there. So we'll have to do it another day.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, all right. Little background for the viewers. We only went out to eat in one spot in Port Angeles, and Chris knows where I'm going with this next question. Fast Burrito. It was a local burrito spot that was absolutely fantastic, served huge burritos. Chris, if you could get Fast Burrito right now, what would you order?
Oof. It's hard because we just ate dinner. But I think I would go with the breakfast burrito. The sausage, egg, and cheese breakfast burrito.
Interesting.
Yeah. That was tasty, and it goes really well with... They have a whole servings bar with all these different salsas and some veggies. So you can really add a lot of flavor, and I think that would be a good one to mix in all the flavor that's available.
Nice. I am also doing a breakfast burrito. There was something about the way that hit the morning after we did that huge backpacking trip where it was just like everything I wanted right then in that moment. And so I kind of want to get back to that nostalgia. But I would want the bacon burrito. I think it has bacon, egg, potatoes, maybe some cheese.
Yeah, definitely.
And then you get some like spicy sauce from the bar.
Yep.
And you just load that thing up and go to town. And that would fill you for, at least me, that would fill me up.
Yeah.
Those breakfast burritos were quality.
That was great. Awesome. I have one more question for you.
Okay.
Think about all our new experiences in Port Angeles and around the area. What is one thing that you learned while there?
I feel like I learned two things. One thing about myself and one thing about Washington State and Port Angeles. So I'll start with the one about myself. I think something that I learned was that we had to replace all of our backpacking gear, at least one of everything that we owned. So like one sleeping bag, one sleeping pad, one backpack, one set of like all the bags, water filter, all these kind of necessities that you don't really think about. And I learned about myself, also about you, was how much knowledge we had gained in the last couple years of backpacking gear and what you should get and what the next latest technology is and that kind of stuff. We
had no clue what we had to do so much research for every single item last time.
That's true. Yeah, 3 years ago when we were first buying all of our gear, we spent a painstaking amount of time investigating and looking at different articles online. And this time it felt like so much more of a breeze because I kind of already knew what I was looking for and I had that mile marker to compare to, which I think was helpful for the gear that we had to replace. And you obviously had great knowledge as well, so that helps to have that second opinion and that second person. So that was something I was really impressed about. We rebounded really well and really easily, and it's nice to know that should anything happen to our gear in the future, we should be okay to replace it, at least from a intellectual standpoint. We should know exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
And then the thing that I learned about Port Angeles, I had only known Port Angeles and to a greater extent Forks from the Twilight series and the Pacific Northwest generally from, rumors on the East Coast. What do you hear about the Pacific Northwest? It's that it's rainy and it's gray. And Port Angeles served up, one of the first days we were there, some prime Washington weather. It was gray, it was rainy, I didn't feel obligated to go outside, and it was wonderful. Then, next day was sunny, and then it was sunny again. And there was just so many sunny days. It was incredible. And such great weather, I wouldn't trade it for anything. But something that I've come to realize is that the summers in the Pacific Northwest, Port Angeles, Forks, Washington State, all of the above are really wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to hear what you have to say about this.
Okay.
This was an interesting question to unpack.
I have two also. One is that trails, I don't know if it's just Washington, but I'm guessing it's kind of the whole West in general. Trails might not really be much of a trail. We learned this on the, it's called the Lower Cameron Obstruction Point backpacking loop. And it's about, I think, 28 maybe miles, 25, somewhere in there. And the entire first day and a half we spent hiking along the Lower Cameron Creek with nettles 10 feet high, and you couldn't even see down to your legs, and you're just getting cut up the entire time. And the only trail was the fact that if you turned left or right, you would literally be able to see nothing, and if you turned straight, well, you can at least see the person in front of you.
It sounds like an exaggeration, but it's really true.
Yeah. And then further up on Grand Ridge, which is the other part of that hike, I realized that sometimes the trail is so skinny that you feel like if you step off of that trail that's about the width of your shoe, you're going to fall down into oblivion, just right off the ridge.
Yeah, there was that
was pretty amazing to see.
Amazing to see, and it definitely made my stomach flip a little bit for sure. Yeah. And it was windy when we were doing a lot of that part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
And the second one is that you do not need a tent to camp. We spent a night out on the beach with no tent because our poles had been stolen and we did not have replacements yet.
Mm-hmm.
So we took our tarp and we hung it over us.
We did.
But we were in our sleeping bags and open air, and it was actually a really pleasant night. The next morning we found out that there was a bear that people had seen that night before, and then we saw it that morning, probably not a mile away. So it was definitely in the area. Luckily, we didn't see it the day before because I think we might have been a little unsettled. But we had a great night's sleep, I think.
We did. I did. It was great. We slept with an ocean view, I would say. It was awesome.
It was awesome.
It was I was definitely uncertain how that was going to go, and I'm glad it went as well as it did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was fun stuff. Cool. Okay, last question for me. What was your most prized possession during the 3 backpacking trips that we completed in Olympic National Park?
Okay. It's going to be a newbie to my backpacking toolkit, I think. And the most prized possession for me was the Uncrustable that I would unwrap for lunch every day when backpacking. That was a new addition this year. Usually we'll buy things in bulk, and so we kind of eat the same thing throughout the year.
True.
And this year, one of those happened to be Uncrustables, which I haven't had one in probably 4 or 5 years. It really hits the spot when backpacking, so that was great.
Yeah, you remember we had a group come up and comment, "Are those Uncrustables? Those look so good."
Mm-hmm.
They were jealous for sure.
Yeah,
You
they
love
were
that.
jelly. PB&J.
Oh, they were PB and jelly. Nice one. Good joke. Okay. My most prized possession. Okay. I think the most prized possession. I'm really torn between 2 things. Can I pick 2?
Sure.
Okay. And they're related, so I think it makes sense. The first one is going to come as no surprise to anyone who knows me. Do you know what it is?
No,
Really?
I don't know. What is it?
Okay. You're gonna be like, oh,
Okay.
my rain pants.
Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't fend off rain, but they did fend off mosquitoes, and there were a lot.
Not that they failed in the rain. We just didn't need them.
We
in the
didn't.
rain.
Yeah. Good clarifying point. We got lucky with the weather, apart from the day that it snowed. Though that was a day when they came in very clutch.
But the mosquitoes.
But primarily it was for the mosquitoes. That's why I'm picking them, because every single thing that we did in Olympic, Ozette borderline on the mosquitoes, not too bad, but both Boulder Lake and Obstruction were very, very buggy every night that we were out there. And I was just constantly swatting, and you know how the mosquitoes love me. So that was part of it. The other prized possession was bug spray for all the areas that rain pants can't cover. And that's it. I'm simple.
All right. Hope
Cool.
you had a good time with all those bugs.
I had so much fun.
Okay, so did I. Well, that closes it out for our review of Port Angeles. Do you have anything else to add?
No, nothing else to add.
All right. Thank you for watching Bad Sushi Day,
Ooh.
and we will see you next time.